Okay, it is 2:03, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If we could progress the screen to the first or the second slide, whenever we're ready. Greetings. My name is Keene. I am serving right now as the co-lead for the Robert Noyce Teacher Scholarship Program. And as you know, you are here for the summer block party. So I am so glad to see so many people here. We're glad that you have attended. I'm just going to give a very brief introduction and then introduce a couple of folks to also give their own welcome. I wanted to mention that we just finished a 2-hour marathon session with the new program award and new project awardees. Thank you for attending that. Those of you who are new to Noyce were here with us from 11:30 to 1:30. Now we are joining as well the current PIs in track 1, track 2, track 3, capacity building, track 4. All of us are together here for a few minutes before we're going to break out. So we did a survey, or AAAS did a survey, and found out that most people thought 2 long days was more than you would want to sit online. So we decided to have 2 half days. Only the half days turned out to be about 5 to 6 hours each half day. So you probably are laughing behind your back saying, yeah, half days, but welcome. What we decided is that the first one would be just for the PIs, and it would be mostly a community building affair. So that's what we're here for. We're here to build community among the Noyce Scholarship Program with all of our amazing PIs, both new and currently operating PIs. So thank you so much for being here. I want to briefly introduce or just bring up the program officers, the ones that are current. As you know, at NSF, we tend to be changing regularly, so this is the ones that we certainly are happy to have at this moment. So if we would progress the slides to the next one, that would be great. So currently we have 9 program officers operating at the National Science Foundation. As you can see, and they're not in any particular order because we use this slide as a guess your program officer. Across the top are Kathleen, Talitha, Andrea, Michelle, and across the bottom, Karen, Bob, Sandra, Mike, and Jennifer. Not all of the people that are on this list will be here today because a few of them, particularly Talitha, Michelle, and Sandra, have what we call detail at the National Science Foundation, which means that they're right now doing some other work. They'll be back, but right now they are doing other work and will not be attending. If you have one of those people, Michelle, Talitha, or Sandra, you will be assigned when you go to meet with program officers to someone else who is another one of our program officers. So you'll get to meet each other, but you won't be directly meeting those 3. Additionally, Andrea has some health issues and she will not be able to attend today, but her panel or her group of PIs will be addressed by one of our newly joined, but not yet a Noyce program officer, but experienced. His name is Tom Kim. So those of you who will recognize that he will do you a wonderful job. I also wanted to just make sense of that there are also 3 other people that work in our Noyce program at NSF. Daphne Marshall is our program specialist. Mia Everett is our current program specialist because Daphne is also on detail. And Jack Butler is a science assistant who will be leading some of our prod programs today. So we're thankful for an amazing team of just not these 9 people, but the extra 3, which make a team of 12 at Noyce. So we are, I hope you enjoy today. Today is the block party and it's going to be community building and question answering till the end. Okay, one more slide, please. Just wanted to remind you that this is not the only Noyce gathering for the summer. The other one, it will be the virtual summit, and it will be August the 5th, approximately the same time, around 12 to 6 p.m. And at the summit, we will not only bring back all of you, program office or principal investigators, co-PIs, etc., but we're going to bring the scholars too. And there will be competitions and posters and videos and lots of things going on that will be connecting both us and our scholars, who, as we know, is the most reason we're here is to build new wonderful new STEM educators at K-12 level. So mark it on your calendars and sign up if you haven't already for the August 5th date. Okay, so that's my welcome. Thank you again for coming. I'm going to introduce our division director, the division director for the Division of Undergraduate Education, who is Robin Wright, and she's going to talk briefly with you. Welcome, Robin.
Thanks so much, Karen, and it really is an honor for me to be here to just add my welcome for your taking the time to engage with one another. The Noyce program is just an awesome program. It supports teachers, and there just is not another group that's more important than our teachers, and that's illustrated by the situations, today, in fact. Before I go any further, I want to just give a shout out to Keene, who has been working on the Noyce program and other programs in the Division of Undergraduate Education for some time now, and she's going to be rotating away. And if you want to talk with her about her experience in DOE, we are always looking for new rotators. Every single year we get new ones and we say goodbye to others who've served their terms. So just talk with her about, and others about their experience. I know that we're all mourning the loss of our ability to work in person. And like everything else, it has advantages. I have worn jeans to work for the last 3 months and no shoes, which would never happen if I was back in headquarters. But I want to just tell you a couple of changes that are happening in NSF to bring you up to date. We have a new director. His name is Sethuraman Panchanathan. He's formerly been on the National Science Board, which you may or may not remember is kind of the sister to the director. The Science Board helps to, along with the director of the National Science Foundation, help to guide the directions that NSF takes. And Panch, everyone calls him Panch, was approved by Congress, I think just about a week ago. And so he's starting out. And typically what happens when new directors come on board is they may have new initiatives and new things that they want to see happen. Like the big ideas were the last director's big ideas. And then the other thing is to share with you that we have not been in our building. Most of us are not essential workers. We can actually do our work from on telework. And so we've been doing our work from every single state, I think, in the country, and there might even be out of the country. I'm not even sure. So we're kind of in the same shoes you are. And I want to tell you how much we appreciate, we understand from our own personal experiences how challenging it is to do online learning. It's more exhausting than you could ever imagine. I would never have imagined this. And also the situation is so fluid. I think it's the most stressful thing in the entire world to not know what's going to be happening, a month from now, much less a week from now. And so I want to just urge you to take care of yourselves, mentally, emotionally, physically, as we ride through this. This is going to be one of those times that they write books about for the rest of the history of the world. So that said, I just want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate you, how much we admire the work that you do for the nation, for the nation's kids, for STEM education. Every single one of us can point to multiple teachers that are why we are where we are today. And I know that you make differences every single day in the classroom with the teachers with the students that you interact with and the teachers that you interact with. So on behalf of the National Science Foundation, on behalf of the people of the United States, thank you so much for your service. And I hope you have a great party today and that the summit coming up in August will also be very productive. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. And so I'm Kathleen Bergin, and I'm the current lead of the Noyce program. And on behalf of the entire Noyce team, I want to add my welcome to that of Robin. And as I make my remarks, I'm going to ask you to grab some old technology called a piece of paper and a writing tool, because you're going to need these towards the end of my remarks. My remarks today are intended to do three things: bring acknowledgments, celebration, and a challenge for recommitment. I also want you to know that Sandra Richardson welcomes you and looks forward to returning as the lead of the NSF Noyce program in August. Sandra is currently bringing her expertise to a special assignment in a different directorate at NSF. I also want to acknowledge the tremendous contributions Noyce co-lead Keene and AAAS's Jennifer Carinci have made and are making regarding this block party and the upcoming virtual Noyce Summit, August 5th. I want to acknowledge the challenges you and your scholars and fellows have been embracing during this time of pandemic. The energy, creativity, and dedication that you have brought to this situation are very much worth celebrating. So give yourselves a round of virtual applause. I also want to acknowledge the challenges this next school year will bring to you and your scholars and fellows as institutions of higher education and school districts attempt to provide experiences that are educationally sound and safe. At the same time, I acknowledge the challenges you have and are facing due to COVID-19, particularly regarding distance learning, which Robin alluded to. I also want to acknowledge the challenges that persist due to institutional racism that started in this country in the 1400s when European explorers first landed in what is now the United States and trampled the rights of the indigenous people of the Americas. This prejudice against other was then exacerbated by bringing slavery to this continent in the 1600s and perhaps earlier. I want to acknowledge with you the recent demonstrations regarding Black Lives Matter in many of our communities and the importance of seizing this pivotal moment in our nation's history to support much needed and long overdue change. I want to acknowledge the pain that our nation and you are experiencing from the killings and murders of named and unnamed countless Black men and women over hundreds of years of institutional racism. The contributions you are making in this regard, associated with your deliberate focus on strategies such as culturally responsive teaching and cultural competence and pedagogical knowledge to support your teacher candidates in creating STEM classrooms of equity, justice, and success for each learner in a high-need school district is to be celebrated. You and your scholars and fellows are to be celebrated. The contributions you are making through your Track 4 research to provide evidence-based understandings regarding STEM teacher effectiveness, persistence, and retention in high-need school districts is to be celebrated. You are to be celebrated. Now I ask you to take that piece of paper you grabbed. If you're part of a Track 1, 2, 3 or capacity building project, towards the top of the paper, please write down one practice or strategy that has been or will be implemented in your teacher preparation program to support teacher success in creating classrooms of justice for all students, particularly students from groups that have historically been marginalized. If you're part of a Track 4 project, write down one aspect of your work that will advance classrooms of justice for all students, particularly students from groups that have historically been marginalized. Next, if you are part of a Track 1, 2, 3 or capacity building project, I ask you to write a strategy or practice your project is or will implement in the induction phase regarding research-based distance learning strategies and regarding creating classrooms of justice for all students, particularly students from groups that have historically been marginalized. Now I ask you to sign the bottom of that paper. And in that signing, I thank you for your commitment to now and future generations of teachers and the lives they touch. I thank you for seizing the opportunity today and in the future Noyce Virtual Summit opportunities to connect and network with other Noyce PIs, all to advance our shared work of developing and supporting amazing STEM teachers who are armed with toolkits of justice and success for each and every student they have the privilege to teach. It is a privilege of a lifetime for me to work alongside you. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kathleen. Much needed sentiments to set the context here and move forward. So if we could go to the next slides, lots of claps, lots of thank yous in the chat. We will pick up on that theme a bit more and be able to delve into it in the summit that is coming later. So there will be more opportunities for you and your scholars to delve into the much needed topic of equity. For now, I'd like to offer my welcome from AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. My name is Jennifer Carinci, and I am a program director for STEM education research here and the PI of AAAS's Noyce grant. So again, on behalf of AAAS and our entire Noyce team who's been working to make this possible and has the privilege to co-host with NSF on this work, as well as to work on the ARISE project that's been making it to your mailbox. ARISE, being in DC, is a long alphabet soup of advancing research and innovation in the STEM education of pre-service teachers in high-need school districts. So we'll pick up on your work in conversations proceeding later today. I just wanted to give a bit of notes on the block party. This block party, like others you've been to, is BYOB, but that last B is bring your own background to this, although you can do the more commonly used substitution for the last B during the end when we celebrate after our discussions, and you break out into some networking conversations randomly. Next slide, please. But before we jump to the celebrations at the end, some housekeeping notes. Everybody's muted upon entry and muting now very well in this large meeting section. Once we break out into some smaller groups, there's time later in the agenda for peer conversations, and meeting with your program directors will be in smaller groups. And at that time, there will be much of the conversation where you can unmute when you would like to add to the conversation, as well as turn your video on if you so choose, so that people can get to know you a bit more. Next slide, please. Also, there will be a chat function. So if you, many of you are using the chat now, you can continue to do that in your smaller breakouts as well. So you can add comments, and later during the panels, enter your questions so that the panelists can address them during the time. If you run into any technical issues and need support, you can reach out to Zoom Lindsay or Zoom Ryan. So if you check the participant link and pretend you're sending a chat, you can find our Zoom friends there who are working very hard behind the scenes. Next slide, please. So I did want to pause a minute to talk about peer-led conversations. So there will be times in this agenda for both the tracks 1 to 3 and capacity building side of the house and our track 4 PI meeting where there will be peer-led conversations. So there's 2 types of breakouts that will be happening, and our Zoom friends will be working to put you into the rooms where you need to be behind the scenes and doing that during the breaks that you'll hear about in a moment. But one of your breakouts will be with a NSF program director, either the one who works with you or another who is jumping in for the purposes of this meeting. So thank you to all the program directors working on those conversations. And the other type of conversation will be peer-led. So for those of you who are current PIs and answered our survey about what you wanted to hear in a virtual event, many of you said you really just wanted time to talk to people and you hope that that didn't disappear in the virtual event versus the summit. So there are times for informal conversations, and we have reached out very recently to a few of you to ask you to facilitate and basically just keep the conversation going around a little bit about your project, some questions you have for fellow PIs that you want to crowdsource, and or some successes and tips that you want to share. But in those peer-led conversations, those who've been reached out to as facilitators, feel free to take the reins, and everybody else jump in as well. This is your time to talk to each other during those pieces. Next slide, please. So this is the part where in just a minute we're going to start to divide into separate meetings for a little bit before we come back at the closing and are all together again. So there is a meeting right now. So if you are in the tracks 1 to 3 or capacity building, so if that is your grant, or for those of you who have 2, the part of the program that you are following, please stay in this session the rest of the day. Just don't close out of this meeting, just hang out here and you'll be able to go wherever you need to go. For those of you who are track 4 PIs or otherwise have to move back and forth for an assigned session, in just a moment, I'm going to ask you to look at the chat, and my colleague Allison has dropped a link in there. Feel free to copy it, and then this same link for the track 4 meeting is also in your agenda that you were sent if you are a track 4 PI. In just a moment, I'll ask you to click on that link. You'll be taken to a waiting room for a separate meeting for track 4 PIs. Please do click in just a moment, and if you hang out until the panel, the track 4 lessons learned panel starts at 2:40. So please click in there now and then be ready to listen to the panel with your colleagues at 2:40. And then after that in the agenda, your peer-led conversation and PD meetings with the Noyce program directors will happen. So again, if you are track 4, I can ask you to click the link in the chat right now, and then I will see you at 2:40 over in that meeting. So now back to tracks 1 to 3 in capacity building, who I hope had their earmuffs on for that piece. I don't know how well earmuffs work in this group. They don't work so well for my kids, but we'll see how it goes here. But for tracks 1 to 3, again, stay in this session. And next slide, please. For tracks 1 to 3 in capacity building PIs, what's going to happen is once I stop talking here, there will be a break. But again, I'm going to ask you to leave your Zoom window meeting open. Just go ahead and keep on mute, and if you want, turn off your camera, because our Zoom friends behind the scene will be sorting you into the proper breakouts where you need to go. So please leave the meeting open, just stay here for the rest of the event. And at 2:45, You will be in a breakout of either those peer-led conversations that I mentioned that all of you can jump in on, or in a room with an NSF program director. So you'll know which one you're in if there is a program director in your room. And I'd ask for your patience to bear with us in case it takes a couple more minutes to assign some of you. And thank you for your patience in general with AAAS's first ever and our Noyce, NSF Noyce program's first ever virtual meeting. And as Karen mentioned, we will be sending information to register for those individuals you indicated should go to the summit on August 5th. So thank you for your patience joining, and we look forward to a great party with lots of tips and success and community building. So again, go ahead and take your break and be ready for conversation at 2:45. Thanks so much.